All right, welcome into the Rocky Top Insider Instant Reaction. Tennessee takes the victory in their first game of the Knoxville Regional, a score of 10-0 over 4-seeded Alabama State. Ryan Schumpert, Rick Butler, talking about the game. Ryan, what was your kind of overall reaction? What was your instant takeaway to the game?
Yeah, well, I think for one, you start with Tidwell, who was fantastic, probably the best he's been all season, and up there for one of the best starts of his whole career. But to me, it was kind of the interesting part of the game was the offense. It wasn't that they started slow by any means. The first 5 innings, they scored 3 runs, which aren't a ton, what you'd expect against Alabama State, and a ballpark that we know plays small. It played very, very small tonight. But at the same time, they weren't bad in those stretches. They scored 1 run in 3 of those innings. They had runners in scoring position, and the other 2, they just didn't seem to be able to kind of get over the hump and break the game open. That changed in the 5th inning with what was a 5-run inning. Charlie Taylor lays down the squeeze play, which was our colleague Troy from Huron with the Daily Times in Maryville asked Tony Vitello, maybe the biggest crowd reaction, dugout reaction on a squeeze play of all time.
Every time that Charlie Taylor got up to bat, this crowd went wild. They were really trying to show them, to show him that they were supporting him. Let's go, Charlie! Chant a couple of times. They were really, they really had his back tonight.
Well, that was the funny thing. I think for his 4th at bat, you had simultaneous. You had a one part of the stadium there was a Charlie, Charlie, Charlie chant, and then the other part of the stadium it was the Let's Go Charlie chant.
Let's go, Charlie!
So I mean that was really cool to see. It really was, because he obviously has not played much this season outside of midweek games. He's really struggled at the plate in those midweek games. And I think it shows you kind of this Tennessee fan base's knowledge of the season, that they followed along with those midweek games and knew of those struggles. And then 2, for them just to completely rally behind him on all those at-bats. And it certainly wasn't a great day for him at the plate, but did his job with that squeeze play and then had a nice fly ball that got out to the warning track and center. Would have been a home run in a lot of places in the ballpark. But that set things up for the 5th inning. They blew things open. Luke Lipsius had a big RBI hit. He was fantastic. Reached base 4 times tonight. And then the back-to-back homers from Jordan Beck and Drew Gilbert that pushed Tennessee's lead out to, I guess, 8 it was. And that kind of was enough. You knew the game was over after that.
Yeah, it was consistent offense, right? It was about 5 straight innings, the last 5 innings of the game for Tennessee, scoring a run in each, 1-1, 5-1-1. So kind of had the 5 sandwiched in the middle there. But that's, in a lot of ways, that's still what we've seen from Tennessee and what we know to expect from Tennessee. They're going to wear you down throughout a game, and that's why they are so tough to beat. Another reason why they're so tough to beat, Ryan, you mentioned it earlier a second ago, but Tidwell on the mound was just terrific tonight. 7 innings and 7 2/3 inning pitched, only 3 hits, no runs given up, 7 strikeouts as well. What did you see from him, and what was working for him tonight? Yeah,
well, I think the most important thing that we saw from him, or maybe what stands out specifically with him, is the fact that no walks and only 2 at-bats where 3 balls in the at-bat or the account. That's been his issue this year. It's his command, and even in starts where he doesn't walk a ton of guys. You go back to his Vanderbilt start last week in Hoover, where I think he did have 2 or 3 walks. Just a lot of taxing 3-ball at bats, very, very deep counts. There was none of that. He lived in front of Alabama State's batters tonight, and they really didn't have a chance. And I think that really just completely changes things for him when he's able to get ahead. The fastball was sitting in the upper 90s, 98 early in the game, pretty consistently early in the game. And then Alabama State's players and coaches kind of said it after. He was able to land multiple pitches for strikes. That's always been a big thing for him. His slider has given him some command troubles really in both of his 2 seasons in Knoxville. It was on the money today. And when he's got it going like that, he's going to be tough for anyone to hit, let alone a really good team, SWAC team, a team that won the SWAC, but let alone any team in the SWAC.
Maybe a team that's not used to seeing that kind of talent consistently.
Yeah, exactly. They're not. Alabama State, they played Alabama. One game they played Auburn, 2 games this year. I still doubt they've seen the velo that they saw from Tidwell tonight.
Okay, well, Ryan, I want to get into a little bit of a first look, a little bit of a preview for tomorrow's game. But first, before we get there, rounding out the stories tonight, Tennessee catcher Evan Russell was not in the game tonight. He was not available for Tennessee. Doesn't look to be available for Tennessee tomorrow either. Tony Vitello was basically alluding to that being doubtful, but they are going to see, because Evan Russell was sick this morning. That is the official word from Tony Vitello and why he was not able to play and why Charlie Taylor was stepping in. Yeah, exactly. Charlie Taylor, really, I believe his first start of the year, it wasn't a midweek game, and really solid behind the plate. And I mean, he talked about that post-game, that's what his most important focus is, just what he's doing defensively. And then, like you said, Tony Vitello's sickness, you would think, maybe a short turnaround. He seemed doubtful about that, and really even didn't
commit to him being able to play next week, though he didn't want to talk anything about next week. His focus is on Campbell tomorrow, and then what will be after that on Sunday, whether that is a championship game or a loser's bracket game to get into that championship fight.
Well, let's get into that right here before we get out of here. Tennessee, Campbell, tomorrow night right here in Knoxville. What do you kind of think? How should Tennessee be feeling heading into this game? I mean, if you ask me, that, again, just like what we said, that's Tennessee's kind of game, right? You wear down your opponent over a long time. You use your pitching. You use the power hitting when it comes in. To me, that is the same recipe that Tennessee can use to win tomorrow as well. But hey, Campbell had a big offensive day at the plate today. What did you see from them, and what do you expect for tomorrow?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really good Campbell offense. I think Georgia Tech, Tennessee, and Campbell all have at least 5 guys with double-digit home runs on the season, and we saw that today. Campbell jumped on Georgia Tech early, got up, I believe, 12-2 in that game before kind of coasting to a 15-8 victory. And look, we knew it coming in. We saw it last year. We saw it in the Tennessee game. The ball flies out in this ballpark. 10 home runs today in the 2 games at Lindsey Nelson Stadium. And that gives Campbell a puncher's chance to be able to hang in the game if they can get to Chase Dollander. But at the same time, Chase Dollander has just been so superb since coming back from his injury. It's hard to not have a lot of confidence in him. And when you look on the reverse side, Campbell, one really good pitcher. He pitched today against Georgia Tech. Yep. You know they're going to have arms. Well, it's not like they're out of gas in the tank or anything like that. But they're not going to have their best weapon to throw tomorrow against Tennessee. And I think that makes me feel pretty good about Tennessee's chances.
That will be tomorrow night. Tennessee will be back on the field here in the Knoxville Regional for their second game of the weekend. But again, for tonight, Tennessee takes the victory in the opening game 10-0 over 4-seeded Alabama State. For Ryan Schumpert, I'm Rick Butler. This has been the Rocky Top Insider Instant Reaction. We'll see you tomorrow for the Knoxville Regional.